good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Horde of Tales. It's another Tuesday. It's a little bit late. We had to get the airship running and everything, and the weather conditions as we approach the Graywall Mountains are a bit bad, so we had to adjust and settle in here, but here we are for tonight.
Sorry.
I'm here together with my lovely players who have joined us here for today, the last session of this year of 2021. I was just saying that was the last session of 2022, and I also mentioned on the Discord I'm on that it's the last session of 2022, and one of my fellow people on that server said,
Whoops.
like, "Oh, I knew the Europeans are ahead of us, but a whole year? That's crazy." No, it's the last session of 20. It's the last session of 2021, and hope we're gonna make a good one. But before we get into the game, let's just check in with our players. How's everyone doing tonight?
This is my jolly face.
Did
Did I just knock my camera? I kind of shifted it, didn't I? It's okay. We'll live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a great Christmas sweater, and Darth Vader gets everyone into the Christmas mood.
Definitely. Well, in the end, Ida has a lot of fancy sweaters and shirts and everything.
Gotta show off the swag.
Serial and Caro, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. Very excited about some projects I'm working on, some personal stuff. With a lot of motivation, which is cool. It still doesn't make things go much faster, but at least I feel good about it. So, yeah, very, very inspired right now. So I just kind of want to get to work and not stop working for the next 3 days straight. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, and well, as for me, I already mentioned it. I got my booster yesterday, so I'm
Check.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Superpowers.
Sadly, no. That the 5G is not working somehow.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
disappointing. No, but I'm fighting the aftermath a little bit off with a lot of sleeping and stuff. So that's okay. Everyone likes to stay in
You
bed.
get
So.
to drink a lot of
There
warm
we go.
drinks and be
Oh,
in
yeah.
blankets and just chill. Nice.
It
Mhm.
looks cozy.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah, and I think all of us are slowly winding down also for the holidays and getting ready for the end of the year. With every day, I'm getting more and more into the Christmas mood, so I'm really looking forward to that. And
Have fun.
last week, the final season of one of my favorite shows started, so I'm also really happy about that. Not happy that it's the final season, but it's all good things must come to an end. And
What is it?
The Expanse.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I'm also today representing a shirt from The Expanse from Taiko Station. If there's any other Expanse lovers in chat as well, please let me know, because I think it's one of the greatest shows.
Husband
don't
and I
like the
started
main actor.
binging. I think we're in the middle of season 3. We just finished 3. We're with the
Nice.
3. Rather.
Disappointed with
What do you think about the male front actor, like
the main character.
the main
Paladin.
character? Yeah.
Look, he's the perfect protagonist. He pushes buttons and it advances the plot. It's it's perfect.
He has always this whiny face on.
Oh, he's like my wife calls him like the discount Jon Snow. They couldn't get Kit Harington for the show, so they just got him, and he has like the same face like Kit Harington from Game of Thrones. So he never looks really happy. But
He also has just the one expression.
yeah, he
Like,
does.
Yeah, exactly.
This is his face. Yeah, exactly. It's no, but I
And
really
they call
just-
me unexpressive. What's this?
Exactly. Okay. before I start geeking out about the expanse too much, let's slowly get into our last session of the year. But before we get into that, just the typical announcements. You're here on Horde of Tales. We're playing the Convergence Manifesto, and we are currently in the second adventure of this adventure series, which is called Live Another Day. You can find more about this series of adventures on acrosseberron.com if you want to run these yourself. There's a total of 13 adventures, and we're currently in the second adventure of those. Should the stream overlay that you're seeing here is done by Caro, and the character art that you're seeing later on stream is a cooperation between Caro and Serial. And make sure also to check them out at their Twitter handles if you like what you're seeing. And also, before I forget it, and Ida has to do it for me again, you might have also noticed that in one of the things you can spend your channel points on is the Cat Vantage, which is that sometimes while I'm in the middle of running this game for these fantastic people and I'm all the way in describing a scene for them, there's this orange cat that appears and tries to pull me out of it. But should you spot that orange cat, should you just spot a part of him, his tail, his hat, his paws, you have to see him. Hearing him does not count, but if you see him, you can spend your channel points on Cat Vantage. And when you spend them on Cat Vantage, also let us know who is going to get advantage on the next roll. You can give it to one of the player characters if you want to. But if you're otherwise inclined, you can also give it to me, the DM, and I can spend it on one of the NPCs. And who knows what I might do with that. Them's the rules.
It's chaos.
It's absolute
Unleash is
chaos.
always chaos.
And I have a feeling there might be a bit more chaos waiting us. So how about I put us over to that intro of ours, and then we get into today's session of the Convergence Manifesto. Intro coming up right now. Alrighty. Well, when last we left our adventurers, they had just enjoyed 3 weeks of in-character downtime after their latest adventures in the cogs of Sharn. Each of our adventurers spent their downtime on personal time, catching up with people, getting to know the city of Sharn, or whatever caught their fancy. But after 3 weeks of downtime, they were summoned back to the Clifftops Adventurers Guild, where Lara had a new task waiting for them. A most daring one. Their mission was to travel into the Graywall Mountains, a mountain barrier between the continent of Breland and the monstrous nation of Drooam, which is run by the Daughters of Sorakel, a trio of hags that work for independence for their own nation. In these Graywall Mountains, somewhere in a hidden valley known as the Shining Valley, our adventurers have been tasked in charging a special sapphire that was given to them. After accepting the mission, however, Rayn used her telepathic powers to dig into the mind of guild handler Lara. Got some interesting insights there, but left a slightly disgruntled guild handler at the Clifftop Adventurers Guild. As the group discussed these findings, the memory that Rayn uncovered also triggered something in Rebus, which called a kind of a vision, flashbacks, fragments of memories that are somewhere inside the Warforged mind. And Rayn also tried to help Rebus in trying to connect to those memories. But strangely enough, there seems to be some kind of void in their memories at this point. Alas, the group had much to prepare, and in 2 days' time, they prepared their clothing, and Delphine even prepared some gifts for the captain of the airship that would fly in there, because as it turned out, a fellow House Lyrander member, Darien Lyrander, would be their pilot and captain on his ship of the clear blue sky. And Delphine was so kind to prepare a gift for him, a beautiful fan, as she knew that he was really into fans. The party met.
We all
with
have our
Darien-
hobbies, you know.
Exactly. The party met with Darien Lyrander aboard the Clear Blue Sky, had short introductions where they, well, got to know a little bit of the flamboyant persona that Darien is, and they departed from Sharn on the Clear Blue Sky. And we left off as the ship was pulling away from the Lyrander Tower in Sharn. And we're gonna pick up shortly after that. So Lord Darien has provided you all with food and drinks and music, his own little quartet playing in his chambers aboard the ship. And you are slowly flying through the air northwestward towards the Graywall Mountains. You departed in the early evening in Sharn, so you slowly can see that the sun is setting and the weather at this point is clear. The ride is gentle. You only feel the gentle rocking of the airship. Not much unlike how a ship on the seas would rock. So I could imagine that, for example, Delphine, to you, this would be very familiar. And to anyone else, if you have spent some time on seafaring vessels, this might also be a familiar experience. At this point, you have enjoyed the food and drinks that Darien has offered to you. And the night, for you're going to spend a bit more than a day on the ship, the rest of the evening and night is yours. So, members of the Clifftop Adventurers Guild, what would you like to do aboard the Clear Blue Sky?
Ah, damn it. I forgot to bring something down. Never mind. So we're kind of like, dinner has finished. Darien has been his effervescent self. Delphine will hear in her mind. Anywhere interesting you'd like to check out on this ship?
How about we are just doing a nice little stroll through the ship itself? If we are getting the allowance, of course.
Fabulous. Sounds lovely. And at that point, Rayn is just going to literally just like stand up sharply, grab a glass of wine and say, "Thank you for the meal. We'll see you in the morning." And literally just like gets up and starts walking towards the exit of the dining room.
Darien at this point had a few glasses of wine, and you can see that his cheeks have a bit of a flush in them, though he still keeps up his posture and friendly smile. And as you basically just announce that you're leaving for now, he just nods towards you, raises his cup, and says, "My ship is your ship. So, as long as you don't break anything."
That happened, I guess.
And I just said, perfect. So we'll see us later, and good night. And then I will take Rayn's arm, and we are leaving the room.
Rebus, is there anything you would like to do as your companions are getting up to leave the room?
Well, I haven't really touched my food or drink because I didn't feel a need for it, so I will just politely stand up, gently bow my head to our host, and indicate that I will appreciate to be shown to my quarters so I can get some rest.
Oh, Darien looks at you. "Oh, that will be no problem." He just claps his hands twice, and one of the house servants moves over to his side, and he leans to them and says, Please show our noble guest here to the quarters we have prepared. I have made sure that whatever you might need is in your quarters. I hope that you do cherish a soft place to sleep as far as you require it.
It is not usually something absolutely indispensable, but it is much appreciated.
Very well. If at any point during your stay there's anything you need, there is in your quarters, there's a little string that you can pull. Bell will ring in the servants' quarters, and they will come to your room. So do not hesitate. They are employed. They get paid for their work. So do not hesitate to call upon their services.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. And thank you for the meal. And I will go to my room, I guess, and see how it is.
So basically, Rayn and Delphine, you have left at first, and you step out of the quarters that are on the upper deck of the ship. And as you step out, you notice the breeze that whips around your faces as the ship is flying. Rebus, the house servant, does guide you to the pretty steep staircases that lead down into the middle deck of the ship. And as you go below deck, you see that it's fairly spacious here. The ceilings are fairly high here on the middle deck, and you are guided to a not large, but very comfortable looking sleeping quarters. There's a small bed that is maybe a little too small for you in this case, but there's a wardrobe. There's a little closet, a small closet to put any kind of clothing or the likes. And on the bed, there is actually a duo of two little chocolates that lie on the bed.
That's adorable.
Right, so I will actually take the little wrapped package that contain my clothing that Rayn and Delphine helped choosing, and I will carefully place it on the bed and unwrap it and unfold the clothes. I'm not quite sure if I will need them, so I don't know how I will react to the elements or how different it might feel for me. But it's good to have them just in case. Being made of metal and wood, they change with weather, so it might be wise to keep them at a reasonable, constant temperature. I've never actually worn clothes, so these are the first outfit that I have. So I will grab one of the hangers from the wardrobe and very carefully make sure that the clothes have no wrinkles and like unfold them and hang them and just look at them from the bed. And then just sit comfortably, since I don't really need to lay down for ergonomic reasons, so the bed being small doesn't really make a difference. And I will power off for a minute, or at least be on standby, so I can save energy. And maybe this might help me through processing or through dreaming, or however you want to call my circuits having some self-maintenance. Maybe it can make some sense of those fragments of memories that I got throughout the past few weeks.
Gotcha. Yeah. So once you put the clothing down, you sit down on the bed, and you just slowly feel yourself sinking away into your sensation of standby, just sinking away. And anyone who would see you at this would slowly see that it's not like you don't have muscles that relax when you do this or anything, but you slowly just sink a little bit and go into your standby mode. And as that happens, Rayn and Delphine, you both are still around on the ship. You are still on the top deck of the ship, where you can see also the beautiful glowing blue ring of elemental energy that powers the ship. You see some of the crewmates walking around as the two of you are, I assume, like arm in arm walking here. What would you like to do? The ship is yours. Darien told you that his ship is your ship. Anything you would like to explore or look at?
If we're on this very breezy deck flying through the sky, Rain, I'm going to minor illusion a small fan and uselessly fan it on myself. Like
At that point, I will pull out the second fan that I've got and basically present it to her. Maybe this might be more useful.
what matter of contraption is this?
Oh, well, let's say when I've looked for the Darien's gift, I found this thing and yeah, just took it with me.
It's the super sharp metal fan.
Hmm.
Other than being a very dramatic looking metal fan, would Rain get the sense that this kind of maybe it's sturdy, maybe it's not. This is the kind of object that maybe has the potential for magic to be imbued into it?
Give me an Arcana check.
First roll of the night. 16 total.
Looking at this steel fan, the first thought that comes into your mind is that it's an interesting choice to make a fan out of steel. Not very practical, but you do notice that the way it can fold and unfold is pretty cleverly made in this device. As for your thoughts, if you could imbue it with magic, technically, many items can be imbued with magic. It's not so much, some materials are more conducive to magic to be put into them. But the fan, probably as a steel object, could hold some enchantments if one were to properly place them on or into the fan.
But I don't have an idea. I recognize Arcana check is to detect magic, but I don't have a kind of feel that whether this fan could potentially be magical.
At this point, how would you try to figure out if it's magical?
Delphine,
Go
the
the Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie way. Just like try it. Just go. Just shoot it to the wall. See if it does something.
Delphine, the source of hot air mentioned that he had other arcanists on his ship. Now, I did not quite prepare something that might help me better identify whether things have a magical essence to them. You think they can lend me something to find out briefly?
Oh, well, I know something to detect some magic on an object, but not today.
You see, I just
We had a little bit too much of this wine, and it was like it got a little bit too much in my head.
Oh dear. Don't you worry. Fabulous fan. I hand it back to her. Maybe we'll find some use for it later.
Oh, keep it.
Oh, what
And-
a doll!
And if there is not any magical purpose to it, it might be enough to slash someone's head off.
Whoever are you thinking about? Now, is there any more fun on this ship? You're familiar with these contraptions, aren't you?
Not as much as I would wish like, but we could find something fun.
Where does the
So-
captain normally sleep?
This is something that you would know, Delphine, because even though you did not spend much time on airships yet, you do know that many of their designs and like layout are based on the sea ships that House Lyrander uses. And if Rayn asked you like where the captain would sleep, probably they would also have their captain's sleeping quarters on the middle deck. So you're on the upper deck, then you would go down to the middle deck, and probably would have it towards the back of the ship or towards the front. What you also would know is that here on the upper deck, towards the back of the ship, there's also where the helm would be, so where the wheel and everything of the ship would be. And as a member of House Lyrander, you would also know that this elemental ring that you see around the ship is probably connected to some magical technological device that is down in the lowest deck of the ship. So if that is also of any interest to you. There might you haven't been on the clear blue sky before, so you don't know the exact layout of this ship, but going by what you know about ships, that would be kind of the places that you would expect them to be.
I think for myself, I will be interested in the mechanics that I used.
By all means, lead the way. I was merely curious. Families can be such a downer sometimes, and I noticed you didn't seem too pleased about your family's interference in our work. And I was thinking perhaps there might be some correspondence between the two to that effect.
Oh, well, let's say things happened in the past that didn't turn out that well for my side. So, let's not talk about this, please.
Everyone loves a good redemption story. Lead the way.
Where are you leading the two of you?
To the lower deck, like
To-
looking where the construction is that keeps the ship going.
Gotcha. So you would also go down the steep staircases down first into the middle deck, where you see everything is very nice. There's a very nice interior here. There's a certain craftsmanship to this. This is not just some kind of trading vessel that someone put together as quick as possible. The beams have some wooden decorations to them. The walls have a nice color. Someone put some thought and effort into making this look beautiful. But once you're in the middle deck, there's another ladder that leads down into the lowest deck at this case. And as you descend the ladder, before you descend, there's one of the crewmates that is about to stop you, but then he looks at the two of you, and there's this look as if he recognizes the two of you and understands who you are, and then just steps aside and lets you down into the lowest deck. And as you climb down the ladder, you can already hear a humming sound, and there's this blue light that covers everything down here. And at the bottom of the ladders, once the two of you are down there, you also hear this bzz, 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 and then you hear, fuck, coming from the room behind you. And when you turn around and enter into the room, you see this massive glass orb in the center of the room, and hovering in the orb is a shard of dark blue, almost black stone, jagged as if it was just broken out of a rock. But there's also a glow coming from it. I need both of you to give me a nature or arcana check, your choice.
Okay. Ten.
20.
20. All right. Delphine, did you use nature or arcana in this case?
Nature.
Nature. All right. Well, Delphine, you might not be the poster child of House Lyrander, and they might not be the proudest of you, but you still enjoyed House Lyrander education and training in certain knowledges of the world. And as a house that is somewhat in the transportation and logistical business, especially after the war. It's also good to know the expensive goods in the world and the things that really make some coins flow through your fingers. And one of those things are so-called dragon shards. The legends around dragon shards is that these are actually remains of the original dragons that shaped the cosmos, of the dragons of the rarest one are the so-called Cerberus dragon shards, which are from the dragon Cerberus. Then there's also the Kyber dragon shards, which come from the depth of the world. As the legend says, the dragon Eberron enveloped the evil and malicious dragon Kyber, and this evil and darkness of Kyber is still living underneath the earth, but it manifests also in these kinds of dragon shards. Now, of course, that's a nice little evil story that you can tell the peasants and everything, but House Lyrander also knows that Kyber dragon shards are powerful magical resources that play an integral part in running an airship. They are a power source, but also a place to put magics into to keep the ship and the engine of the ship running. It is a very, not many people know the arts of preparing a Kyber dragon shard in the right way to use for an airship. But House Lyrander has its people, and it cherishes the people who know how to do this. Rayn, it is an amazing thing to look at, and you might have heard about these shards, but you have not seen one of these before in your life. But you do sense, there's a strong magic presence coming from this.
Like Rayn is like properly impressed.
Yeah, and as said, it is encased in this glass bowl or this glass orb, and this orb is then attached to tubes and cables and consoles, all of them leading into the wall and probably feeding to the upper deck. And standing in front of this device currently is a 2 meter 30 tall bugbear woman who has this mohawk hair, and she has like holding between her lips, she has like nails and tools which you just put in her mouth to store there for a moment while her hands are wielding hammers and gizmos. There's a few sparks flying off the console, and as she just goes like, ah, fuck, she spits out the nails and other tools she kept in her mouth for a moment. Clink, 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 it falls to the ground, and as she scurries to put it all together, she sees both of you entering the room. I'm really busy right now, just making sure this thing keeps flying. Is there anything urgent I can help you with?
No, just keep going.
Most impressive.
Oh, most of this is the machine doing it. I'm just making sure it keeps running. So my part is not that impressive. Probably I just slammed my thumb with one of my hammers and everything, but yeah. Wait. You're the other Lyrander person that came on board. Where are my manners? And you see this tall, lanky bugbears have, like, in comparison to their body, they have these really long arms. This lanky person just bows and does this really deep bow, stretching both of her arms out, and then postures back up. Name's Ikun, artificer in service to House Lyrander, and currently tasked with the maintenance of this elemental engine.
Greetings. My name is Delphine, and this is my very good friend Rayn. So, we don't want to keep you any of your time, to be fair, so I just wanted to show her the heart of the ship, basically, to say.
This is quite literally the heart. Like, if this stops beating, all of our hearts stop beating once we crash into the ground.
What's another plummet through the sky? We'll do that tomorrow. We did that last week.
Well, it wouldn't be that good if we fall from the sky while being on the ship. to be fair.
One day, I'd like a piece of that.
A dragon shard.
Sure, why not?
Well, if you find a piece of that, you should sell it and then retire.
Interesting. And you don't happen to have little fragments or bits of dust lying around of it, of course, don't you? As a souvenir of sorts.
You're a funny one. I can't even leave this ship without being checked if I take anything of worth from this ship. So if I would try to take anything of this shard from here, oh boy. I mean, she looks at Delphine. I mean, House Lyrander would take the proper precautions that their property is not taken from their ship. And should someone try to, repercussions are applied.
And I whisper to Rayn, they really don't like this. Not at all.
Note taken. Thank you for not letting us fall out of the sky.
And as you say that, Ekun smirks, and then on the console behind her, you see there's this little gem or stone starts glowing orange, and there's this pipe whistle that goes like that starts whistling, and Ekun goes like, "Oh no, not the pressure chamber." And she moves to the other side of the device, and you can just hear like ding, ding, ding. And you're like, oh, come on, you daft thing. Ding, ding, ding.
Rayn is so curious as to what would happen if she pulls out that sapphire stone near this place. Maybe another time.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to do while you're here? Anything else before you retire to your rooms? As said, there's like, this is the engine chamber that you're in, but there's still also the helm. There's other parts of the ship.
Double checking something. Since Darien said there were indeed like casters who are in tune with the weather, Rayn wants to kind of go visit them and see if she can leech a component off them. Borrow, so to say.
Gotcha.
So she'd ask to be directed in this direction.
Yep. If you're asking around, just simply ask people like, for someone that's aboard here to intuit the weather, or who's here for like magical support, you're quickly pointed towards the helm of the ship. So back up to the upper deck, all the way to the back of the ship. The helm, which is on this elevated position at the end of the ship. So you have to get up a few stairs to get there. And at this point in the evening, there's just the crew here that keeps the ship floating. Once the course is set on the airship, there's not that much steering that needs to be done. Unlike on the seas, sometimes there's a wave that hits you from the side and you need to like steer against it. Here up in the air, you can compensate in different ways for how the wind hits the ship and everything. So once you have the course set, there's not that much steering happening, and some of the crew take this over. But also here at the helm is a table, and on this table is what almost looks like this little fist-sized crystal orb that currently on the inside is entirely foggy, swirling with mist. And standing next to the table is this finely dressed human gentleman with braided hair resting on one side of his head. And he's currently hovering one hand over that orb as he's just looking at it and seems to be very intensely focused on that crystal orb. And you have been pointed to this man who the people on the ship call Evitius.
Evitius, yeah.
I'll make sure to give you the proper spellings of all those names later on. He, as you approach and just step into the helm,
I'm going to like lean over the table and just also look directly at this like cloudy thing.
He has his hand hovered over it, and as you lean in, he sees you like approaching in his peripheral vision. He looks at you. Can I help you?
Is that what you tell the weather with? Fascinating.
I tell the weather with my expertise and my skills, and these tools support me in doing that, yes.
Wonderful, fabulous, good for you. I'm in need. Having heard that you are in the employ of and from the representative of the family, my dear friend Delphine here. Look at her, she's
I am
gorgeous.
in the employ of the Rainscaller Guild, who is allied with House Lyrander. I am not directly employed by House Lyrander, but I understand the implications of your question.
So we're all friends. Wonderful.
I think that is a step too far, but please do continue.
Good person. Would you happen to have a mundane pearl at your disposal that I could use?
A mundane pearl.
Yes.
If you ask for a pearl, I have the suspicion you do not need it for something mundane as the pearl might be.
I look at Delphine. How is the relationship between these two houses?
The Raincallers Guild is not a house. We are an organization which is heavily related with House Lyrander. If you are interested on the complicated history between the Raincallers Guild and House Lyrander, I do have some literature that I can point you to. I do not understand how that question would help you in this case.
Have you a pearl with the monetary value of 50 pieces of gold?
I do have such an item in my possession. Does this answer your question?
Sorry, 100 GP.
I do have such an item in my possession. Does this answer your question?
Yes, quite. I'd like to have it, please.
I'd like to keep it.
And if you are compensated for this of its monetary value?
What use is coin when I cannot buy a new pearl for it? We are on top of an airship. Did you find any kind of jeweler aboard this ship? A pearl mine? Not that pearls are mined. They are taken from the seas, as we know. Maybe if you would enlighten me on what purpose you have with this pearl I possess.
Delphine is going to hear in her mind. I mean, the ship crashing into the lands below wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, would it?
I prefer not to die here.
Darling, I'd never let you die like that. We'd go flying into the sunset together.
Although I don't think it will give us any kind of good light, if at all, if this happens while we are on this ship.
Always the voice of reason.
I hate to be like this.
Serial's face right now.
I'm going to pull out my coin sack and start juggling, making the coins clink. May I alleviate it of you or not?
I would be more inclined to depart with my pearl if I were to know what you use it for. If in use as a magical component, as someone who is in charge of magical processes on this ship, I were to be informed about this. So, good lady, why do not enlighten me about your purposes with my pearl?
Yes, I'd like to use it as a magical component. We are employed on a mission. We are going to go to foreign lands, foreign to myself at least. And it would be most useful too, should we encounter unusual magical artifacts, for us to understand better what they are.
While you were having this conversation, he kept his hand over this crystal orb in front of him. And at this point, he pulls back his hand, and the orb, like the mist in it, disappears, and it becomes completely opaque. And he looks at Evitius, looks at you. He looks over at Delphine. Is she in your employ, Lady Lyrander?
No, as she is a friend of mine, so she doesn't need to be employed.
Is this something that I could charge your house for if I were to provide the pearl for her?
Yeah, sure.
Rayn, give me a persuasion check, please.
Just put it
With
on my
with
tab.
with advantage, because Delphine says that it can be put on the Lyrander tab.
I'm offering to pay it. My goodness, this guy.
He doesn't want your coin right now.
One of those is cocked. But the first is a 10. Please be better. Please be better. Please be better. That is a total of 13 plus 5 is 18.
18. He's on his belt. There's a satchel which he now reaches into, and he pulls out this small, pristine pearl, holds it between his thumb and index finger. I shall requisition a new one. If I am to hear that there are any spells cast aboard the clear blue sky without my explicit permission, I shall have you reprimanded.
Excuse me?
He just looks at you, still holding the pearl. Gives one last look to Delphine. Then just puts it in your hand.
Thank you.
He sighs, puts his hand back over the crystal ball, and again there's these mists swirling in it, and he says, "Weather forecast looks very gray for the arrival. Keep that in mind."
Anything we need to worry about?
Winds are picking up slowly, and within the coming day, I do see heavy overcast in the area we're traveling to. Also, quite some fog on the ground.
That's probably not the worst.
While Evitius is continuing this very dry monologue, emotionless thing, I'm going to use subtle casting, and I'm going to cast Calm Emotions.
Calm emotions.
Yes,
You want to make this guy calmer.
I am
At
curious.
this point, he's just gonna drop dead. Like,
Rayn is curious if is this guy, can this possibly get drier? Or is this a facade for something else? Either way, I think Rayn is going to be entertained. So I'm gonna mark this off.
Uh-huh.
And this was cast using subtle spell, so
Oh, wow.
Calm emotions.
yes. Can I cast it for
Each
VTT?
humanoid in a 20-foot radius centered on a point you choose within range must make a charisma saving throw.
Fine.
So
That would, at this
probably
point, mean that everyone in this room has to make one.
Fine.
Which means that also Delphine has to make one.
Cool.
And you too as well, because you're also within the radius.
Cool.
All right.
Well,
Let's go.
any creature I
the
choose.
caster has to.
Oh,
I choose.
oh.
I don't necessarily choose Delphine to do it, but if Delphine finds it giggly.
No,
if-
calm
if-
emotions. Calm emotions. Each humanoid in a 20-foot radius is centered on a point you choose within range must make a charisma saving throw.
Oh, on the point you choose, then.
Yeah.
Is there some clever way to point the radius so that it's mostly only affecting the guy?
20-foot radius is a lot in this room. That would cover everyone in this room.
Yep.
Then I defer to that ruling. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
What
Alright,
is the
that's-
save?
What's the save? Charisma saving throw, DC 13?
I believe it's 13. Yes.
Well,
Oh,
cool.
not 20 for me.
Perfect.
12, right?
Delphine.
12.
Well, whew. I made a combined one for the crew that is in here. I'm not gonna roll for every single crewman. So Delphine, how would you describe how you get calmer under the effect of this spell?
Oof, that's a good question, actually.
Weren't you kind of anxious about the whole family thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit
probably.
more relaxed.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And Rayn, you succeeded on your check, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, you, Delphine, you wouldn't even understand really where this relaxation comes from. You just suddenly feel like, oh, you're feeling more relaxed. And you look around the room and you see like there's a few of the crew members who are just like, one of them just gets up and he just does this very long relaxed exhale as he was just finishing mopping a part of the floor. And he's like, ah. And you also see Evitius with his hand over the crystal orb. He's like looking at it and he has his eyes focused into the orb. You can see them slowly close as he's just standing there. And his hand slowly just drops to his side as he then just... I think I need to retreat to my chambers for the night.
The sweetest of dreams. I'm going to
And he just...
grab Delphine's arm and just like smile as I'm holding concentration and just shuffle out.
And he just wanders out,
Very
has
confused.
has his hands in his pockets, and also wanders out. As you do have a pearl from him. And is there anything else of note that you would like to do before you return to your chambers?
Cast Identify on that metal fan.
You want to cast Identify on that fan?
Yes, that's all that for that.
You do cast Identify on that fan, and as you open your senses to the magics around you and on that object, it is a plain steel fan.
Cool. I don't have any more shenanigans unless Delphine wants to do
I
something
thought
else.
you would be identifying the sapphire that we got from Lara.
But there's more where that came from.
First, the
It's
fan.
all good.
That was
like, you
the
know.
fan. Look, the fan might have been cursed. Who knows? It's Delphine, is there anything you would like to do before you head to your chambers?
No, not at the moment.
Perfect. So each of you has been provided with comfortable chambers. The beds are pretty soft. Like, this is not the fine mattresses that you find at a high class inn somewhere or in a noble's estate. Like, if you compare this to the beds that you had in the Cannith Enclave in the Cox, these beds are a little bit worse than those, but they're still comfortable. And you have a nice little bit of space. And the only thing that gives away that you're not in a nice tavern is the creaking of the wood at night as the airship is rocked in the air. Sometimes you can hear from below deck that the humming from the elemental engine gets a little bit louder. And there's sometimes the sound of probably a hammer hitting something down there, echoing up from the lowest decks. But the night is restful. Rebus, you, however, do sink away into your standby, into the void and dark inside you. And it does take you some time to really feel that you're in full standby mode. It's almost as if you struggle a bit. It's not like you as Rebus would have a way to compare this, but for you as a player, Serial, for Rebus, this would feel like one of those nights where whatever you try to do, you're always close to the edge of falling asleep, but then something just pulls you awake again. And Rebus is like close to the point where he sinks into that void, but then it's almost as if something triggers his sensory arrays and he has to pay attention to something again, or there's something that slips to the forefront of their mind. And it's a bothersome experience, and it takes you longer than usual to really settle down. Is there anything you would do to try to alleviate that?
Well, this is not a common occurrence. I wonder what is getting in the way of my circuits. I will stand up and go to the desk and sit down at the desk. Is there anything to write with? Any paper?
Yeah, the desk has like a drawer on the side. There's also some paper and a quill and ink in there.
Feels like there's some kind of processing getting stuck. I would like to write anything that comes to my mind, just to let those thoughts flow properly and then take them out of there into the paper, and hopefully that might make them stop looping. So
basically trying to put your thoughts on paper and get them out of the mind where they just keep running in circles. You take the quill, you take the ink, you take the paper, and you start writing away. And before you know it, you actually have like a page full of words, of sentences. Would these sentences be very coherent sentences, or would there be maybe just words or parts of sentences?
well, I assume there would be maybe 2 or 3 sentences, like paragraph by paragraph, that might make sense together.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not trying to write something cohesive, just let whatever I'm thinking flow onto the paper. So it might be a couple of words, it might then be a full sentence, then it might be a paragraph, then it might be words again. It might not even be about the same topic, I don't really know.
All right, yeah.
Also, I don't think I've seen my handwriting before, so I'll just let it happen and see how it looks.
Your handwriting is efficient. It is very clear. It is very easy to read. There's not many flourishes in the handwriting. It's not entirely like if you have written it on a typewriter, but each letter is very clear on itself, and it's very easy to read. And you have a good point there. This might be one of the first times that you really see yourself write anything or remember something that you've written. And as you read over the text and these sentences, these snippets of memories, can you give me a perception check, please?
Certainly.
Just because like you're just writing this page full and...
Natural 1. So a total of 3.
Total of 3, yeah.
Great.
There's just... What baffles you is that for your senses, not much time has passed, and this entire page is just filled with words and sentences. And you do notice as you have done this, that you do get the feeling that your mind is settling down, that there's a bit more ease and rest there.
If I could sigh, you would hear me sigh, but it's more of a escape of steam from a couple of joints from the chest area instead of a, I'll put the paper aside, then go back, reread it. Is there anything important in there? Or
maybe if you look again at it once you've run a complete standby circle, at this point, you see that you put a lot of information on there, and it has helped you to process it. But there's just a lot of information on the page right now, and there might be something there, but maybe it's better to check it again after your mind has really had a good chance to calm down and really process everything.
That makes sense. Well, I don't need that many hours of rest anyway, so I will set it down, go back to the bed, and this time lie down with, I guess, my feet like hanging outside of the mattress.
Yeah.
And try again to disconnect any non-essential mechanisms so I can properly rest for the next, I think, 6 hours.
At least, yeah. And you do notice as you settle down, stretching yourself out on the bed, your feet indeed stretching out over the edge of the bed. You feel your weight sinking into the mattress. And before you know it, there's just darkness, and your standby mode has started. And
There's the Windows screensaver.
it's like this icon that goes
with
from corner to
yeah.
corner, dunk, dunk,
Yeah.
dunk, and
Like
you,
a DVD.
you, all of you also find your rest eventually, and you are awoken the next day by the servants on the ship, who do knock on your doors, check if you're still awake, and if you are not awake, return later, and repeat that until they receive some kind of response to invite you to breakfast in the captain's room.
Rest.
You do get a long rest indeed. All of you
Go,
fulfill
go,
a
go.
long rest. Click that long rest button.
Imagine
and
they are knocking every 5 minutes to see if you're awake.
They are never so unpolite to just enter your room without permission. So they just wait until someone responds to them. But eventually they do get you to join Lord Darien at his breakfast, which is indeed as splendid and complete as his dinner was. And Lord Darien has changed outfits. Again, a beautiful, colorful outfit, but it's a bit of a different cut. He still has an outfit that exposes both of his arms, with his dragon mark clearly visible on his left arm. And as you come to breakfast, he's already eating eating bacon and cheese, and there's some scrambled egg that one of his waiters puts on his plate, and he enters and he waves at all of you. Ah, my guests! I hope you had a restful night aboard the ship. I'll have you know that we did avoid some turbulences this night, but fortunately, Vitius did make the right measurements in the right moment. He did fall asleep sooner than I had expected, which almost got us into a bit of trouble there. But he did adjust the course, and we are still looking good for our approach as scheduled, though the weather is looking challenging.
So last night, Evidius
Yes,
said
sir.
that there might be it might be a little bit more cloudy and that we can expect some fog on the ground.
That's exactly what he did brief me on this morning. After my morning bath and my training sessions, I like to start the day off to get a little bit energetic with a little bit of weightlifting. And he, that's the thing. No one asked Darien. And he says, fairly cloudy and indeed fog on the ground, but I do think that we can still, even considering the weather circumstances, pinpoint a good location to drop you off. I've already had Ekun check out the feather tokens that I have in storage here, and I should make sure to provide you with a feather token of your own to make the drop safely. I can assure you that each token is of the highest quality. I would not like anyone to have any issues with a faulty token.
And a single one per individual. That is quite a drop down for what that magic can absorb.
House Lyrander is prepared for these situations. We fly often high in the skies, thousands of feet above the ground. Our feather tokens are not these simple tokens that you can get at every kiosk in Sharn. No, this, Miss Rayn, is quality artistry. Not are they just efficient, they are also a very nice accessory to every outfit.
A shame you cannot demonstrate its usage to us.
There might come a day that I shall leap into the fray alongside your side, but that day is not today.
Yes. Bring him with us. Make him.
No, more like I want to kick his ass off the ship and see him fall. Says Ida, not Rayn.
Fair.
For a distinction.
Oh, before I do forget it, not only shall I provide you with the feather tokens, but Guild Handler Laura has also made sure that the map showing where the Shining Valley should be is also in my possession, and I have, and he pulls out the map and puts it on the table, handed hereby over to you. That might come in useful.
Take my little short arms and pull it over.
I do think that we still will travel throughout the whole day towards a destination. I want to make sure that we time the arrival, that we have the cover of darkness, so that any kind of border patrols or skirmishers from Drooam cannot spot us that easily. And in that regard, the clouds also play in our advantage. We might be able to put the clear blue sky hiding in cloudy cover, and thus have you drop out of it into the darkness of the Graywall Mountains.
I thought we were trying to not be perceived as a menace. So
Exactly. That's why we
would
drop in
be-
the dark of night, so no one knows you're being dropped.
Or in best case, no one even knows that the airship is here.
Exactly. That is why I will already want to warn you. Towards the end of the day, we're going to increase the altitude on the ship a little bit to be a bit more out of sight, but be not afraid. The feather tokens are still at good use at that altitude. You might feel a little sense of vertigo as we rise.
That shouldn't be an issue. If I may, would it be at all possible to postpone our arrival until the weather is more favorable?
That is a fair thought you have there. And I was considering it myself. The problem is, postponing our arrival means that we also might have to wait till earlier in the morning and losing the cover of night. And running the airship for too long will also run into our reserves of fuel. And I want to make sure that we have everything we need to also get the ship back to dock after this. But what do you think of this, Rebus? We make our way to the location. If we judge the weather from there, if we would judge it too dangerous, we can still circle a bit. Keep in that spot, see how it evolves, and Evitius will keep me posted on any changes on the weather that he perceives. Maybe we already know beforehand that the weather might clear up. Especially clouds and fog are very prone to changes.
Who will be the judge of how dangerous the weather is?
Well, I consult with Evitius here. He's an expert member of the Rainscaller Guild. He knows the dangers and problems of any kind of weather, but in the end, as captain of this ship, I shall make the final call.
Well, you're not coming in the mission, though.
That is correct.
So your life is not at risk.
He looks at you, Rebus. Stays quiet for a moment. And then he leans back in his chair and still keeps his eyes on you. Well, if you were to make the decision, fellow Rebus, how would you assess this situation?
Well, I would contrast the probability of nice weather and otherwise calculate how that might affect our trajectory going down, knowing the density and mass of my companions, and then deliver to them a fairly accurate simulation of what they might expect, and all three together would make the choice if it's a risk worth taking.
Oh, well, but we also just jumped from a platform in Sharn without knowing what might come into our race.
Yes, but we weren't thousands of meters in the air through clouds, wind, and fog, which might change the outcome. I want to look out for the well-being of my companions, otherwise the mission is as well as failed.
And you cannot complete your mission if all of you fall to your doom. You are correct in that assessment. Rebus, after breakfast, you should consult with Evitius on this matter. You sound like you have some interesting thoughts in your metallic mind, and I think Evitius would like to pick that mind. Figuratively, not literally. And
Quite.
are there any other questions, observations, or shall we just have the clear blue sky stride forward through these skies ahead of it?
Any confirmation on contacting the ship for retrieval? Once the mission's
Yes,
complete?
that is indeed a point that I was looking into. And as I've mentioned before, I cannot pick you up with the ship as we cannot land it. We do not have a tower up in the Graywall Mountains. But I was reminded that I still have someone who owes me a favor. If you make it out of this shining valley, you will have to trek down of the mountains westward again. Once you get at the bottom of the mountains, look for a town called Ardev and seek out the transportation guilds stationed there. Once you find them,
I'm sorry, a town called Our Death.
Wow.
Ardev, Ardev, not wow.
Just clarifying, you know?
That's going into the notes. He reaches into his pocket and he puts out what you see looks like a personalized seal of House Lyrander. It has the Kraken of House Lyrander on there, but also it put on a octagonal shield, and there is embellished on over the top half of it. There is the name Darien adorning over it, the Kraken, and he puts that personal seal on the table. And he says, "Give my personal seal to the leader of the transportation guild there, and tell them that I call in the favor he owes me, and he will make sure that you get transportation back to Sharn." Now, place is run by House Orions, and he looks over at Delphine. Be polite to them, but you don't have to be friendly to our rivals. Just be polite to them.
He can clearly see that I have a very, very sour expression. Well, if it's necessary, then deal with it.
I have no further questions or concerns at this moment.
Perfect. Then enjoy your breakfast here, and I shall summon you as soon as we're ready to start Operation I'm still not settled on a name for this. But I still have the rest of the day for it. No problems. Enjoy. And you're free to like enjoy the rest of the breakfast. And for the rest of the day, is there anything important that you would like to get done? One of the things, Rebus, Darien would point you to Evitius, the mage aboard the ship and member of the Rainscaller Guild. And Darien will basically introduce you to him in a way of like, Evitius, my old friend, you must listen to what Rebus has to say. He has opinions and insights on our operation, and you should listen to them. And Evitius stands there. Another visitor. Very interesting. What kind of insights do you have to share, Rebus?
Well, I'm not sure if I would call them insights. I was just a bit concerned about the well-being of my fellow companions, since the weather doesn't seem very adept for free-fall landing, shall we say. And I just wanted to discuss what you knew about the forecast and when it would be the optimal time to land.
He listens to you and then moves his hand over his crystal orb again, and it's again filled with this fog in there. He says, if the clear blue sky proceeds at the pace that we're currently keeping, then we should arrive at the location at a time where the fog is at its lowest intensity, making at least travel through the mountains easier. The cloud coverage would, however, be still fairly dense, and if we do not want to risk being spotted at a lower altitude, the initial drop through the cloud cover is a navigational challenge, whoever does it. If we were to postpone the drop, waiting until earlier hours, and he waves over the orb again, and you can see the mists in there shift a bit. There's a bit of clouds also moving in it. If we were to postpone it to early towards dawn, the cloud cover is at its minimal point, but morning fog will start rolling in on the mountains themselves, making ground navigation for you harder.
But a safer landing. I see. Thank you very much for the insight. Do you expect these clouds to be electrically charged?
Most fortunately not. That would be a danger which would cause me to advise against such a landing. Lightning weather is dangerous to anyone who would drop in those clouds, and I would not want to be responsible for someone being hit by a lightning.
Thank you very much. Then I will let my companions know. This is quite an interesting setup you have here, by the way. I had never been in a meteorological station before.
Thank you for the kind words. It is nothing in comparison to a full Rainscaller Guild station.
Then I will walk out.
You just
This was a riveting conversation.
it was right. This you see, there's like crew members around looking at the two of you having this conversation. They're like, "Wow, that was wild." And
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the day, as the sun travels across the firmament, is there anything of import that you would like to do before you're tossed off the ship?
I'm preparing my spells for the day.
Rebus?
Yes, I would like to, well, first tell my companions this is what we can expect. We can either wait and have a harder time once we're on the ground, or we can go through clouds and hope to navigate well enough to fall at a reasonable place. So just think about it. And then I would like to go back to my quarters, and hopefully the sheet that I wrote the day before is still there, and I can reread it.
It is still there, though you do notice that someone made your bed while you were gone, and made sure that whatever chair was next to the desk was pushed back against the desk. Someone just cleaned your room in your absence. But the things you wrote are still there. And you look at them over with a fresh mind, especially after this nice exchange with the Vitias, and you look through them, you read your thoughts, and then in between this very crowded page full of words, at some points, like maybe at like 3 different places on the page, you've written a name. And the name is Aurea. 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 You have no
Or
active memory of this name, but it's there on the page.
Okay. Aurea. Interesting. I guess I'll add it to my notes. And I will rip the page in pieces and just like kind of open my visor, kind of how I've done it some other times when I eat. And since it doesn't really have any difference for me, it's just kind of, it's, if you put material into a furnace to burn,
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
dispose of it that way, and it should burn inside me.
Exactly. You dispose of it inside of your body as that name lingers in your mind. Delphine,
Mm-hmm.
at one point throughout the day, at a moment where you're just by yourself, Darien approaches you.
Okay.
As he wanders over, he was currently busy inspecting something, and he wanders over to you. I hadn't had a chance yet to just talk with you one-on-one, dear cousin. I hope you do enjoy this stay on the ship so far.
Oh, it's a very nice day.
You know, from what I heard, you would have the skills to command one of these yourselves. But there is this most unfortunate business that the house is so perturbed about.
My dear cousin, we can just drop off any kinds of politeness here, as is known. It doesn't matter anyway.
Does it not?
For me,
Are
not.
you... So you can live with your choices?
Let's say I did stuff in my life that might not have been that good in the end. But I decided for this. And I can't change it anymore.
You certainly can't. No. Even if you tried, the family would not allow you to forget it, to try something else. You've put a mark next to that dragon mark on your skin, and even though it is not visible, all of our house will always see it. I want to be clear, Delphine, that I admire your free spirit. And I think that others of our houses are too harsh in your treatment. But you do understand what it's like to be born into House Lyrander and then also be gifted with a mark. There's certain expectations there.
Well, But not everyone can live to these expectations.
Can you give me an insight check, Delphine?
Sure. Oh, I got. Oh, this is a 14.
14. As you say that not everyone can live to those expectations, you see Darien look at you just for a moment and then just smiles. No, we truly can't all do that. I hope you find your place, cousin. And then he just taps you on the shoulder, like squeezes your shoulder briefly, and then just walks by as he shouts to one of the crew members, no, you need to wrap that differently. And he walks over to one of the crewmates on the deck. And yeah, Delphine?
Yeah, I briefly thought of shouting behind him, like, yeah, how come that he never found a wife for him or a partner? So, but I'm keeping this to myself.
Keeping that to yourself. Maybe at a later moment.
Yeah.
But
You're better than this. You're better than this.
Yeah.
No, embrace it. Embrace it. Come to the
And-
dark side.
with that conversation, as the day moves by, as the moment of dropping off from the ship approaches, we're going to first take a quick break before we continue to that. So let's take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 9:45 or 11 or 8 or whatever time it is at your place. Get yourself some drinks, get yourself a snack, cuddle your pets, do stretches, but be back in 10 minutes to see how these people are going to leap off an airship and see how things develop. So
Yay.
we'll be back
Let's
in
have a
about
dance
10
break.
minutes.
Scrambled,
And we
poached, over easy, soft boiled, hard boiled, hollandaise, benedict, all types of eggs and preparations.
if you got hungry by this announcements, it's that's very understandable. We were talking about eggs while we were on break,
No
which is one of
reason. Not
which
at
is
all.
one of the things we happen to do when we're not on screen. Talking about when we're not on screen, if you also want to talk about with us about eggs or other things, or whatever you would like, you can join our Discord, which you find underneath this stream, where you can just chat with us, post your opinions about sessions, do whatever you want on that Discord, as long as you're polite and nice. You also find links to our other socials down below. For example, on Twitter, you see whenever we go live and whatever other things we do. And of course, in the overlay, you see all of our socials that you can follow us at if you like to follow us there. Serial, for example, always posts great stuff from their art there. Caro shares interesting stuff on her Twitter. And on my Twitter, you sometimes find pictures of cats. So if that's something you're into, it's that's a reason to follow us. Also,
Retroactive cat advantage.
No, that does not give you retroactive cat vantage. I'm so sorry.
Damn
And
it.
you can also, of course, follow and subscribe here on Twitch. We already had a gift subscription here earlier, which was very kind. And if you want to support and like what we're doing, feel free to follow and subscribe. If you have an Amazon Prime, you can use your free Amazon Prime here if you want to. But with that, all of that being said, I think our adventurers is still on top of an airship, and the day is slowly rolling by, and night approaches. As Darien had informed you earlier, you do notice how the airship flies higher into the sky as the cloud cover around you during the evening becomes thicker and light grows dimmer. There is some light here now on top of the deck. Some of these Everlight lanterns have been illuminated to provide some light, but considering this is a bit of a stealth mission, Darien has instructed the crew to not enable all of the lights. The ring itself is already giving quite some glow from it, and you don't want to be spotted from 15 miles away. But that's one of the advantages of the cloud cover right now. As it stands at this point, one of Evitia's predictions has turned out to be correct. At this point in the night, the clouds are thick, and trying to jump from the ship now would probably cause you, well, to really struggle with navigating while you're falling to the ground, which is a challenge on its own. You would have the feather tokens to land softly, but who knows where you might end up if you don't navigate correctly through the clouds. All of you are currently at the helm, where Darien is behind the wheel, Evitius is there as well, and on a table nearby, Ekun is currently preparing the feather tokens that are going to be given to you. And they do look a lot nicer than the ones that you got in Sharn. The ones in Sharn were of this very thin metal, almost aluminum-like. These ones are from thick steel and are actually in a nice shape of a little wing and are a little nice little brooch that you can stick to your chest. And they're very nicely polished and everything. They are truly a nice accessory to every outfit. Darien is standing there next to Evitius, who informs you about the current weather conditions, and all of you are there as well. And Evitius says, as I had discussed earlier with Rebus, with the current weather conditions, the drop would be a navigational challenge, but the ground conditions are currently more favorable at this point. On the other hand, if we postpone the drop-off a few hours until shortly before sunrise, the fall will be easier, but the morning fog rolling through the mountains will give these freelancers a harder time navigating towards the valley. I simply forecast the weather. I think both conditions have their advantages and disadvantages. I leave it in the capable hands of my superiors to make the decision.
Rayn turns to look at Delphine and Rebus. Are either of you particularly skilled in navigating through natural elements? Ones on the ground, I mean, specifically.
Not particularly.
I'm proficient with navigator's tools.
Helpful on a ship, not so helpful in the middle of the mountainside.
Not really.
You do, however, still have a map with you, which would help you at least some kind of navigation, but it is harder to walk through terrain that you don't know. And if the terrain is also heavy obfuscated by fog, that might make it even more challenging. On the other hand, jumping through thick clouds and trying to navigate through those has its own risks.
I have a question for the meteorologist. I forget his name.
Evitius.
Evitius. How far away from the ground is the cloud coverage at the moment?
Moves his hand over his crystal orb, peers into it. The clouds are also thick and fairly low at this point. I think you would have not cleared them until about 200 feet above the ground.
Would I know?
DM, would I know if that's enough for like waiting to clear the clouds before activating the feather tokens, or if we would have to activate them within the cloud coverage?
Some question you asked the DM.
But it's a very important question.
Like literally just say yes or no. Like it doesn't have to make actual physical sense. Just like if we can activate the Featherfall 50 meters
The-
from the ground
yeah.
and still
The-
be fine, then
The thing
we can
is,
just,
with the feather token, you basically slow down your descent. If you activate it too late, then you don't have enough time to slow down your descent fast enough, and you could still crash
Yeah.
into the ground. With 200 feet remaining, if you can like immediately activate it, you're gonna have a rough landing, and you could survive it, but it's gonna be a rough landing, and you would be off to
that's
a
all
rough
Rebus
start.
needed to know.
Uh,
Yep,
Rayn would be
that's
like
good.
twirling the badge between her fingers. Well, as you recall, the both of you, when we both had to play that childish game, I did not require the need of these things. Meaning I could lend my capabilities in addition to whatever these will provide for us.
Quite, but I was more concerned about the fact that we will have to steer our position while descending, so we can choose an adequate point of landing. And doing so while still within the clouds would give us a lot of path traveled while blinded, and we could steer completely off the mark. While if we are just falling down, we could make a more straight approach in a straight line by just using as much velocity as we can gather during the descent. I'm not worried about the feather tokens not working. I am worried about us floating away and get very far away from our desired landing point.
Vitius, what sort of clouds are we facing at our arrival? Cumulonimbus? Heavy rain-laden ones? Thinner, wispy ones? What did your bubble say?
The current cloud coverage is very rain laden. At our current time, they are lingering, but I assume that throughout the day, throughout the Graywall, rain showers can be expected.
DM, would Rayn has second level gust of wind. Last up to a minute. Would Rain understand or know if that sort of spell could literally just burst a column of visibility as we're falling? Featherfall is not concentration.
That is correct.
While DM is looking up, as a player, I'd want to suggest we can pop our tokens, and then I can cast Featherfall on all of us, provided we're within range. And we can have twice as long a slow landing. And if I can gust of wind down, if the EM rules that it would work this way, we'd also have a column of visibility going downward.
Mm-hmm.
It's late at
Also,
night,
you
so
could
if
probably
camp,
use gust of wind if we manage to stay together. You could use gust of wind to steer us, which is going to be the harder part of this.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like we will make it to the ground, but it's important where on the ground we make it.
Well, I'm just saying
So-
that I have more capabilities to make the trip down easy. I have very little to help navigating if we're clubbed. It just plays to my strength. I'm, as a player, open to both, but
I'd say regarding the gust of wind,
Yeah.
it is a 60 feet long and 10-foot wide blast, which you could, for example, point downwards through the clouds as you're falling. Keep in mind that it's 60 feet long, and depending on the length of the fall, that's not enough. One cast of it is not enough to clear all of that.
no, clearly. But my point is not to. I would hold it up for as long as I could, the full minute, but also
Mhm.
just to have that much of a buffer of visibility.
Yeah.
I can also cast Gust of Wind if
Ah.
it's necessary. But just once.
I could cast this twice. I'm not gonna be happy about it, but like it's favorable to going splat.
Yeah.
Well, then I would
So-
say it is decided. We shall
So
use
one of us,
his abilities to see and to steer, and
Yeah.
it should make the descent easier, so we can descend now.
so one of us could give us a better direction with the wind, and the other one can clear up the path a bit so that we see where we are supposed to land.
We're gonna have to hold hands very, very, very tightly.
Well, we could certainly get a rope, right? I turn towards Darien.
As you turn towards Darien, you notice while you were conversing about how you want to approach this fall, and Evitius was also paying attention to your conversation, Darien at some point must have gotten bored by your planning, and he's wandered over to the table with the feather tokens, where Ekun was currently busy also preparing them and checking the enchantments and everything. Could everyone at this point give me a perception check, please?
Yeah.
7.
5,
Good.
3. We see shit.
Natural 1. So it's a 3.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
am rolling a computer die, and it's still
Get
Well,
normal ones.
You, at the point that Rebus like tries to turn towards Darien, you do notice that he's standing over at the table, and he's currently like holding one of these badges in his hand, flipping it through his fingers. And as he notices that people are looking at him, he turns towards you like, yes? The tokens,
Would
indeed.
it be possible to get some means of attaching ourselves to one another so we don't fly separate?
That is a great idea. We do have enough rope. It is always good to have rope aboard a ship, no matter if it's a ship on the sea or in the skies. Rope shall be provided, and he just quickly instructs one of the deckhands to get some rope for you. But tokens shall also be provided. And he, even though, like, he didn't really overhear your conversation about who does and who doesn't need a token. He just hands each of you one of these fancier feather tokens.
Taken.
And he says, made by House Lyrander itself, finest quality feather tokens, which we keep on all of our airships. All of our personnel is always equipped with one of these because accidents do happen. But the thing that you can prevent is a deadly accident, or at least a not so fatal accident. But
Indeed,
that
many fine things do come from your house. Winking to Delphine.
See, this is not subtle, you guys.
Do you need a sign?
And once he's handed everyone a token, and the deckhand has provided some rope for you, which is this nice length of rope, very sturdy, strong rope. Darien does, Delphine, before he hands your the feather token, he looks at you and he says, would you give me the honor to pin this on you, cousin?
It's cursed.
Just shrugging a bit. Sure.
Watching this.
You really keep an eye on this, Rayn?
Mhm.
You just see, you see Darien smile at his relative and just quickly with nimble fingers clips the brooch onto her chest, and then looks at you, Delphine, and says, take care.
Will do.
Now, did I gather it correctly that you want to do your daring leap through the clouds? I did have to take care of other things, as is my duty as a captain, so I could not pay full attention to your conversation, but I did think I picked up some things about using your magics to make the way through the clouds and make the fall safer, and tying yourself to each other with a rope.
Yes, I hold my hand out to Delphine. Tie us.
Oh
No
boy.
comment, you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna take the rope and then I will tie us together so that we are not falling apart too much.
I'm assuming I would assume before you tie yourself all together, you would bring yourself in a position where you don't have to walk across half of the ship
Yeah,
once you're
sure.
tied up.
Sure,
Rayn would
definitely.
request to be tied to the end
Yes.
because some of her spells are somatic and she needs an arm.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want that
I,
rule
I,
there
will,
that I
I would
can't do
tie
it.
you around the hips
Waist.
because
Yes, I
the
think
waist. Yeah.
around the waist is the safest. Actually, I will go to my companions and make kind of a harness tying, so like around the waist, around the shoulders, and in between the legs, so it kind of distributes the weight evenly. So if there's a strong tightening, it doesn't hurt any particular part of your body, and that way we're free to.
A most curious and useful skill.
Thank you, Miss Ray. A bit confused as to where I picked this up, but no matter.
As you're all well and tied up, really in this kind of rope harness at this point, you stand towards the edge of the clear blue sky, where usually the part would be where if the ship would dock to a tower, this would be where the landing bridge would be attached. But right now, this is the place where you stand close to the edge and you can hear the wind howling underneath you and swiping up into your faces as you have your tokens on you, your ropes around you, and Darien is standing also close to the edge as he looks down, leaning a little bit over the edge. 'Tis quite the fall, but I have full trust in you that this will succeed. Take care down there. I wish you well on your mission, and I hope to see you healthy and well back in Sharn.
Does he mean that?
Make an insight check.
Oh shit.
19 total. Want to type it to me somewhere, or can everyone know?
I'm going to shoot you a message real quick.
Gotcha.
Whispers.
I fear so much that I should have prepared Featherfall as well.
It's typing. It's typing.
So anyway,
She's like literally just like shooting daggers while smiling at Darien. It's like she's about to open her
in the
mouth.
worst
and say,
case, like
likewise.
in the worst case,
Hey.
one of us can cast Featherfall, so the rest of us will just hang from that one person.
As he says bye, Rayn just kind of grimace smiles back at him, and he's going to hear in his head, "Oh, I will see you again."
Can you roll me intimidation with advantage, please?
Okay.
Like all of you currently see just Darien do like this happy smile on face right now.
15 plus intimidation 3. That's 18.
18.
Okay, so yeah.
And he has to smile dash, and suddenly you see his visage go, oh. And then he goes, well, safe journeys, as he points towards the edge of the ship. You're going to take the leap?
Assuming we've been prepped the estimated distance, so we would have a predetermined estimated guess as to when to prop the first of our expected featherfalls.
Yes.
Okay. Rayn has the map, has the crystal, we have rope, we have everything. Rayn is
Mhm.
ready to go. Ida's ready to jump.
Same.
Yeah, Rebus would be ready as well. I guess
All right.
they will kind of grab onto the rope that is going towards Rayn and towards Delphine, just so they can help. Since they're pretty strong, they can help keep them together for the first part of the journey. So we don't fly apart too much or like have to tug at each other and stuff.
Okay. Handsies then.
Gotcha.
Look forward.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I will add Rebus is wearing their outfit for the first time. So
Oh yeah, we
yay.
should be dressed as well.
I
We
guess
had that
Yeah,
prepared.
I guess a wintry outfit.
Good
Yeah,
call.
I,
We're all in
I
these
would
hideous
assume.
things.
Yeah, I would assume all of you have put on these woolly, thick, not very elegant but warm clothing, and Rebus is now also covered in these. Well, the tallest kind or the longest and widest kind of clothing that you could find at the Clifftop Adventurers Guild. And you do notice that this does keep you warm. For those of you who have skin, you do feel that it's kind of itchy. It's really scratchy and rough on the inside. But it is warm. And all three of you in your warm clothing and tied together step out to the edge.
Wait.
of
Who has the sigil from
the
Darien?
seal.
Yeah, the
I
seal.
hope Delphine.
I would say Delphine could have it with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
You
making
have the
sure not
personal-
that
You have the personal seal of Darien
leave it at
Lyrander
the-
with you. Leave it on the dinner table. No.
Good call. Good call.
Just throw it. Just throw it.
Throw a penny off a skyscraper. Okay.
You do stand at the edge of the deck, and then as you look down, the three of you next to each other lean a bit forward, and there's this brief, strange feeling in your stomachs as your feet leave the ground or the deck beneath you, and you start falling, rushing down. The sound of wind deafening in your ears, the wind slapping against you as you start falling into these clouds, moisture on your skin as you fall through these water-laden clouds and just rush closer towards the ground, leaving behind you whatever light the ship gave off, and now just into the darkness of the clouds. The good thing is you decided to tie up to each other, and which means that you at least stay into proximity. But it also changes the way that you fall. I mean, there's like some of you are heavier, others are lighter, but at least you stick together. Rebus.
I'd like to point out that I have strapped my Everlight lantern to my back so I can act as a point of reference and we have some light going down.
All right.
Cool.
So there's like, you have Beacon Rebus, the Beacon Barbarian going down through the clouds. And at first there's just falling and holding onto the ropes and holding close to each other. And because you're just looking at clouds, you have no idea how close you are at this point towards the ground.
Since I'm casting Gust of Wind in front to get a little more vision. So,
yeah.
So it's just for 1 minute, but as we are descending, this might be enough to get rid of some of the clouds.
Yeah. So
I'd like to position myself behind Delphine before she does this, because being a denser person, really, I will probably be able to keep her from moving up and tugging us with her, and actually help the wind go down further. Because
so while you're
inertia
falling,
and momentum
you're trying to like
and
kind of get
physics.
to the back. Yeah, to get to the back of her, and
Yeah, so
shoving her forward. If you try to do that, because you're still falling and trying to like navigate and move yourself while you're falling is a bit challenging. Could you give me an athletics check for that, please, Rebus?
certainly.
You got
And there's
this.
all the time the wind is going like
15. It was fine. It was
15.
10, so 15 total. It's
15. You see that Delphine is getting ready to cast her magics, and you shift your weight a bit and hold on to her and pull yourself to her back as your weight comes onto her weight, and you push her a bit further down with your weight. As Delphine, you cast your gust of wind spell to clear the clouds in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting sensation because you're basically using wind against the wind that is blowing against you, and you're kind of parting the tide of winds around you as you blast the wind downwards, and the clouds tear apart in front of you. And yeah, you tear these apart like cotton candy as the clouds come by, but there's still, while you're channeling the gust downwards, there's still cloud cover underneath it while you're falling ever downwards.
Rayn
I
would
would
like
at
to
the
have been. I was just gonna say, Rayn would have liked to just keep a mind, like an internal timer, when the first proc of Featherfall should happen, when the token
Okay.
proc should happen,
Okay,
whenever that is. Let
perfect.
me know.
That's something that you start running like in your mind. But I would like to have all of you at this point also make a perception check, please.
You're rolling good. Let's go with
let's
you.
see.
16.
I guess let's
16
not
for the-
see. Let's not see anything.
Not
It's another natural one, so it's a 3.
No, you're
natural
kidding.
20,
No,
total 20.
Perfect. Thank you, Rayn.
total 20, the third natural one for Serial. I'm so sorry. This is
3 of them in perception. Like, what is?
yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, is
Wow.
D&D Beyond not working? What?
While you're falling, Rebus, your maneuver to get to the back of Delphine might have like drawn your attention elsewhere for a moment. You're really more focused on surviving this fall, making sure that not just you, but your companions as well are getting down as safe as possible. So all your operation procedures are focused on that. Delphine and Rayn, as you're falling, and Rayn, while you're keeping track on when should I use the Featherfall spell, as you're falling and Delphine clears the clouds, you see a little bit away from you, you see a rocky peak peeking through the clouds. So at least some kind of mountain is reaching into the clouds at this point, and you might be coming closer to the ground.
Would Rayn know this is the time to proc those tokens?
Yeah.
I'm going to mind link.
We might be late.
I'm going to proc to Rebus and say, when I tug the rope, use the token. Switch to Delphine. When I tug the rope, use the token. And I'm going to calculate, and DM let me know when Rayn would know this. And at that, when she tugs the rope, she will also proc her own token.
Question.
Yes.
Would be activating the token be an action?
Yeah, that's an action to activate.
Because I have concentration on the gust of wind.
But that doesn't
Yep.
matter. You can keep concentration and can still use an action on it. That's no problem.
Featherfall
Okay.
is not concentration.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So both of you hear Rayn's voice in your head, and you prepare your tokens as you fall further down. And then at one point, Rayn, you're pretty sure this is the moment.
Yank.
You yank the rope.
Mhm.
Rebus, you activate the token. Rayn, you cast Featherfall on
I
yourself.
activate the token.
You activate your token. Ring. Both of you, you know it. You just have to quickly slap the token and it activates. Delphine, you slap your token and it's not working.
I knew it. I
You
knew
knew it.
Oh, we're tied together.
Yeah, we're
Can-
still tied together. Yeah.
Can I try to, since I am essentially like over her, right? Like I could
Yeah.
technically hug her because I'm keeping her, like I don't need to hug her because she's being pushed against me.
Yeah.
But like when I activate my token, do I have enough reflexes to grab her,
Make a
like by the waist.
make an athletics check. Another athletics check, please. As you like notice, like, hey, this is not right. Your velocity is slowing down, but Delphine is still fine. What was that roll?
11.
You notice like you're slowing down, but why is Delphine still falling faster than you are as you're losing velocity? And you can't wrap around her, but you can like in the fall still reach her back and hold on to her in that way. So
Okay.
you
then
also see
I
you also
shall
see
do
now.
that, and then like try and pull her towards me, so I don't like just grab her by the collar or something, and like
Gotcha. Delphine,
essentially like hug her.
Delphine, what do you do once you notice that the token is not working?
Cursing quite loudly. But then in the end, there is not much what I can do in this situation since I didn't prepare Featherfall on myself.
What does this do to our descent overall? Since we have 1 free fall and 2 feather falling.
Yeah, what's actually happening now, because 2 of you are slowing down with the Featherfall active, it is now this, despite not being the heaviest here, it is Delphine who would be falling the fastest. But thanks to Rebus, who was able to like hold on to her and slowly pull her in, as long as you keep holding on to her for now, she at least sticks close to your fall. But this changes that this might make the
She's
landing
pulling
a bit
us
rougher.
down. Yeah.
Exactly.
Can Rayn
I would
try
like to turn
get
to. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Rayn saw. So I would like to try and turn, like maybe flash the lantern so she like looks at me, kind of
Yeah.
message, like signal, like open a link
open?
so I can talk to you. And I will say, Delphine's token didn't work. She needs Featherfall.
Can I try to get underneath Delphine's with a sandwich going? I would just pull my rope and like.
Don't make it too
I
complicated.
will say that like overall it doesn't matter really where you are, because we are hooked by a rope. Like the group of like the 3 of us will be falling faster than if we all had Featherfall, because there's one person who like weighs more, you know. It doesn't really matter where you are, like if you're underneath her, like she's gonna push you down faster than it would otherwise.
Because my question is the minute of gust of wind up?
For Delphine, at this point, yes.
Then she's also gonna start falling even faster because
That's
she
why I
doesn't
wanna-
have the.
Exactly.
That's why I want to
When
try to
to.
sandwich.
Yeah. You want to try and get like on Delphine's other side?
I want to try.
Give me an athletics check, please. As you're like falling and pulling yourself on the rope.
Unlikely, but I'm gonna try because.
Can I help by pulling her rope and like helping her get like to our side?
I'd say at this point, Rebus, while Rayn is doing this, you're still busy trying to get a good hold out of on Delphine.
Okay.
That's a 4. And Rebus, while you're busy like finalizing your grip on Delphine, you see out of the corner of your eye that Rayn is like climbing on her rope, trying to climb on her rope towards Delphine from the other side. But Rayn, you lose grip. There's a gust of wind coming from the side where you start blowing the other way, thus also pulling the group a bit away to the other side. And at this point, as this chaos is happening, you clear the clouds and you see the ground approaching beneath you.
Featherfall. That's a bonus action, so it's a little faster.
Okay.
Reaction even. So
How does it work? Is it a creature or a
up
zone?
to 5 falling creatures within 60 feet. We are tied. I choose us
exactly.
3.
Exactly. You choose all 3 of you?
Oh yeah.
As the cloud clears in the darkness, you just see there's no light down here. You just see the dark ground beneath you now. You see outlines of mountains and rocks, and you hear this whistling sound that grows ever higher pitched as you approach the ground. Rayn, you cast Featherfall, slowing all of you further down. And then there's the moment of impact. I need all of you.
Since I am very heavy and I am behind Delphine, I would like
Yeah.
position myself in the opposite direction so she falls on me and not the other way around.
Great. Then Rayn and Rebus, you make dexterity saving throws, please. And Delphine, you make also dexterity saving throw, but with advantage because Rebus is
Come on, baby.
covering for you.
Hup.
And
Oh, that could have been so bad.
Rebus, if I think you have as a barbarian danger sense, which might give you advantage on the dexterity saving throw anyway.
Well, I have advantage against effects that I can see while not blinded, deafened, or
You see the
incapacitated.
You can
ground
definitely
Does this
coming.
count?
Yeah, you can definitely see
okay,
hitting the
good.
ground.
That's much better. That's a 20.
20?
24.
Total
24?
Of, total of 14.
14.
Okay.
Bum! You land in the ground. At least there's a bit of slowing. You had some time to slow down from the additional Featherfall that was cast, and some of you had their tokens active as well. But the entire struggle of holding on to Delphine, getting into a better position, there's still some impact as you hit the ground, but you did manage to really mitigate a lot of the impact. Rebus, the fact that you like roll on the other side of Delphine to like be the first to impact, your frame was made for these kind of forces. Like you notice your servos and your gears kind of pushing against you. You do still take 3 points of bludgeoning damage from the impact. But you hear the grinding sound of your wood and steel frame on the stone. Delphine, you're rattled by the impact, but the fact that Rebus is kind of like a warforged cushion for you at this point also minimizes the damage on your end. You take 2 points of bludgeoning damage from the fall. And
I
Rayn,
got
you had
some springs,
Rayn, you had 14, right?
like a good bike.
you
Ow.
you land like a little bit next to the rest of the group as you were trying to still struggle to get to Delphine while you were falling. You're like maybe like 5 feet away from them. As you just with your Featherfall slowing your fall down, you can brace for impact. You land on your feet, but you kind of overestimate how much force you still had on your impact. So you do
I
this
eat it.
waddling forward and then poof, fall on the ground. And from that, you still take 1 point of bludgeoning damage.
Indignity.
And once
We're
all
great
of
at this,
you
guys. We're professionals.
all of you crashed in, you hear the sound of your crash echoes through the ridges and mountains around you. And then there's silence as the dust settles down and all 3 of you have landed in the darkness of the Graywall Mountains. What do you do?
Is there actually silence? Like,
I would like to listen.
as you
Are
land
we in
there,
danger immediately?
as you land there, waiting for a moment to the dust settle down, to any kind of little rocks that you might have kicked up as you landed, the only thing you hear right now is the wind through the mountains and the breathing of your companions at this point.
Okay, now I will go to them and offer them my hand to pick them up.
Taken.
I'm basically laying above you.
Well, I mean, I did get up. Like, I assume
Yeah.
when we impacted, like, we went our separate ways, because,
Yeah, true.
But I did get up and helped you up.
Are we all
Are
right?
you all okay?
I'm so going to kill him.
My darling, how are murders received in your great house?
I don't care. I don't care.
Oh no,
Not-
I
not-
merely wish to inquire if
motive?
they received much fanfare. Please don't leave me out. You see like malice in like Rayn's eye, like quite anger.
I must apologize, Miss Delphine. I should have. I must admit, I figured something wrong might be going on when he offered to pin your token to your shirt, but I do not know your costumes or what you usually do. I know your family, and I didn't want to intervene. I apologize. I hope you are okay. Also, what motive would you have to do such a thing?
There's a lot. So, but this is my problem. You don't need to care about this. Then you will pay for it. Definitely.
Start
Well,
tying the
the
ropes.
safety of all of us is important to the group and to the mission, but also to myself. So we must care about it if it's going to be a recurrent issue. But I will not inquire any further if you do not wish to talk about it. It would just be important to know if we are to be in danger anytime soon.
We should be okay at the moment.
They're basically saying, I care about you, we're friends. Like, please
Yeah, I know.
tell me if something's wrong. I will kill them.
Rayn is
Like-
saying, please don't leave me out of the murderation, please. I am there for the killing. Please let me join you. Like take off the harness, dust herself off, really ate quite some dirt. Where are we? Pull this godforsaken map upside down. I have dark vision if it matters.
Well, first of all, wherever you are, it's cold here. Those of you who do sense temperature, you're glad that you have the winter clothing on. There, yes, Rebus.
Rayn, if I'm not mistaken, I know you've used a spell some other times to dry clothes and clear small imperfections. Would you mind drying our clothes so we may not freeze on this mountain?
I can move or otherwise change flow. I can cause water to form to simple shapes. With removing water, aka drying. No, that's more precipitation, right?
Yeah, that's more
I can
precipitation.
actually freeze water. I cannot do the opposite though.
You do notice that from the fall through the clouds, there is some moisture that has soaked into your clothing. It's not like you swam through a lake or something in your clothing, but there is
No, but if you go through a cloud, it's like being in the rain. Like,
yeah, there's quite you
know.
had a good run through the rain to get back home, and your clothing is wet at this point. Fortunately, it is fairly well insulated for the warmth. You still notice it keeps your body warmth in fairly nicely. And the wind down here is calmer than it was up on the airship and while you were falling. You still feel a breeze coming over you. It's a cold wind, but it's a calm wind at this point. The cloud cover above you is fairly heavy. You can't see the stars, and try as you might, you don't see the airship through the clouds. You're looking for some kind of bluish glow from the ring, but there is none there. And most of this here is just rocks, rubble, and there is a very thin layer of snow on some parts of the rocks. It's not fully snowy at this place where you are, but there's a very thin thin layer of snow here. And Rayn, you're looking at the map? Well, you try to put it in the right orientation, and eventually you figure out that you also know how to use a map that north is north. It's the directions work similarly under the sea.
Yeah, we have cardinal directions under this.
Exactly. So you figure out how to orient the map, and you how would you try to interpret where you are on the map? I would assume that on your briefing before you were thrown out, Darien did give you some briefing of like the approximate location where you would land, and he did mark that on the map. So that's what you have to go by on the map. But you have no 100% guarantee that this is the exact location.
Like we landed on a mountain, or there's mountains ahead of us or on our periphery?
You're on a mountain. You're on a mountain here.
Okay. And
You're
but we're
not-
not
they
so
did
high
not-
that I see, but we're not so high that I see like the shape of the range we're on.
No, exactly. You're like on the side of a mountain. You're not in the foothills. You are in the mountains proper, but you're not that high that you like on the top of the mountains, of the mountaintops.
Is the valley to the east or west of the mountains,
On the map, it is
supposedly?
towards the northwestern part of the mountains.
But northwestern.
That would mean that you, if you were landed in the position that is indicated on the map, that would mean that you would first have to go higher up into the mountains.
Oh dear. I relay this, what I recall from what was said, but beyond that, Rayn is not much of a navigator on land. But this seems to match up. Let us go until we find some shelter, perhaps.
A
In the
fine idea.
northwesterly direction, in the northwesterly direction. Is that snow there? That white substance, that is snow, yes?
Oh, you might never have
Yes,
seen
certainly.
snow.
I've only heard about it. I'm gonna hop over, stick my hand in there. Oh, that's rather nice. I'm gonna briefly take off my parka and make a snow angel.
Which looks interesting because it's a fairly thin layer of snow. So you can make a snow angel and you see the outline of it. But since the snow is so thin, you're also making a dirt angel underneath it, which is in there. So you also feel the rubbing of pebbles underneath you as you do this.
This is not at all how I imagined it to be.
I guess
Uh,
Rebus also hasn't technically seen snow, but they don't feel like it's a foreign thing.
You
You
you know what snow is, and you have no memory of it, but you're aware of its existence. You know its properties. You know what it is, even though
Yeah.
you don't really know how you know if you don't have a memory of it.
Yes, like I also know the ocean. I don't recall ever being at the ocean, but I feel like I have. It's not a new thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fun.
Rayn will dust off, put back her parka back on, and but she'll take like one nice the cold breath, the cold air around her. Rayn is resistant to cold, but
Yep.
it's still prudent to be bundled up even in this thing.
Absolutely.
Well, she'll
Absolutely.
start as best she can gauge what northwest is in the dark based on where they last landed. That way.
All right. And especially also looking maybe for some kind of shelter, if I'm correct.
If that's on the way, that'd be nice.
All right. Would you be okay with that? That since none of you are actively like being like the lead navigator or the lead guide here, that we turn this into a group check. That
Sure.
I would like all of you to roll a survival check, please. With, and I'm going to be very curious about the results here.
Let's do this.
Oh.
That's a 3 from Rayn. That's a 3 from Delphine.
Rebus. Where's that goddamn cat?
I thought it was a 1, but I guess it was a 7, so I'm gonna take the 7.
It's a 7. So we
You're
have
retarded.
3, 3,
I don't
7.
have like anything extra to. Yeah.
Perfect. Could I also have a perception check from everyone?
Okay, different dice. or plus nada.
Okay.
20.
It is a 17. For once, I rolled like a decent.
17, Delphine.
20.
20,
Rain is
Rayn?
10. Snow.
10. Okay, so the three of you with Rayn in the map, regularly distracted by patches of snow and other things you might encounter here, you start wandering through the Graywall Mountains in what you all agree is a northwestern direction. There is no real path here. You have to trudge in between jagged outcroppings of rock. In the dark, it's also sometimes hard to see where to put your feet. For those of you with dark vision among you, I think it's only Rayn who has dark
No,
vision
I
at
have
this
dark
point.
vision as well.
You have
She's a
dark
half
vision,
elf, right?
half elves.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for those of you with dark vision, it's still not really easy to see because there's except for there is. By the way, there is the lantern from Rebus. I keep forgetting that lantern. So there is
Yeah.
some light here.
It's a pretty good lantern too. Yeah.
It is a very good lantern, so you do have light, which helps you to at least
60
see
feet
where
in bright light and 120 of like total dim light.
that is good light. That helps you to see where to put your feet, which is necessary because sometimes there are these slippery patches of dirt and gravel that if you put your weight too much on them, you start slipping. And at one point, Rayn, while you were walking and looking at snow, you almost slip on one of those, but Rebus is quick enough to like whoop, keep you standing. So you don't tumble down to the side of the mountain.
How gallant,
And
thank you.
it's especially this kind of care and careful approach to it that makes you not move especially fast through these mountains. And you continue on for a while for that. Now, regarding those perception checks, as you wander on, sometimes stopping to check the map, sometimes maybe having a bit of a discussion if you're still going the right way, or maybe offering ideas. At one point, while you're standing at what seems like kind of an intersection of various rocks, you spot in the distance, further uphill to your left, kind of to the west of where you are, you spot a silhouette about 40 feet away from you. Not just one silhouette. If you look close in that direction, you see a total of 3 skulking figures just looming out from behind a rock and then retreating behind the rock.
Were they
I
like
assume no
medium
chance
size?
of recognizing
small?
them. Yeah.
I think Delphine asked if they were medium-sized or small.
Mhm.
From what you can tell, they looked small in shape. Rebus, if you recognize them?
Yeah, I was just asking like if there was any chance that we could recognize what they were.
What you would see is that they were small stature, but also with the like out. This is like still within your light from your lantern, but some of it is blocked by the rocks on the way there, so they're kind of in the shadows that your lantern casts. Like the glance that you got at them, the only thing you could see, smaller figures. You saw some fairly large pointy ears on them. That's what you got before they retreated behind the rocks.
I turn to my companions and say, looks like we are being observed, but
Oh,
I would recommend caution and just continue our journey. This might just be a simple, non-important encounter. You know, they might just be curious and let us pass.
interesting. Hmm.
I will
Rayn
still
will
have my hand on the rapier.
Rayn will ensure to walk behind the two so that she can immediately link up. She has to see them to link up. So she walks in front. That's no good.
All right. So you fall a bit back, Rain, and let the other two
Mhm.
walk on. All right. With that, you continue. And as you keep eyes out, you don't see anyone following you. No signs of these small figures. No other creatures. What you do see is that somewhere on the edge of the horizon, there is slowly the first sliver of sunlight coming into view. What you do, keep pressing on, following your map, using your combined knowledge of mountain navigation, and maybe already planning in your head what you're going to do if you meet a certain member of House Lyrander the next time you see him. But he's up on an airship, you're out here in the mountains, and you still have a valley to find. And how that's gonna work out, we're gonna see in the next year when we return after our winter break for the next session.
He's dead. He's dead.
It's
He's fucking
true.
dead.
It's gonna be a whole hiatus until we're back.
2
Ah.
weeks. 2 weeks.
Mm.
But that gives us enough time to think about how our characters get through these mountains, in what kind of ways you can take revenge on your own family, and who knows, maybe it was just an accident. Maybe he truly didn't know that
Yeah,
didn't work.
sure.
Yeah, of course he didn't know.
Maybe we should let
What a
them meet
coincidence.
a kraken. I mean, they seem to be so fond of them in their iconography. Perhaps Darien would like to meet a kraken. Surely Rayn can arrange this.
It was so good that you did have the rope thing prepared. That you guys approached this really smart. Like, okay, no. If we're gonna plan this, we're gonna approach
Yeah,
it smartly.
I might not like be good at many role playing things, but if there's physics involved, I'm there.
Thinking about that was a smart thing. This could have gone way different if the three of you weren't tied to each other, and what would have happened then?
This could have ended so horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, call it intuition. Like I knew something was gonna go wrong. I knew that like sabotage. Like I knew it. I
Yeah,
just
yeah. But the roles also said our characters didn't see anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, but that was nicely playing along with the rolls, by the way, because there were moments where there were rolls to see, like, do you notice something going on there? I think it was only like in the last minute when Rayn also did the inside check, and I sent Ida a private message about that.
What was this message?
Private.
But no, yeah, I think you as players had all the reasons to be suspicious AF of this. So yeah, but well played as characters then.
yeah, he didn't give me like the vibes of a good person. If you know, like sure, very like fancy or whatever, but like
Flashy, fancy behavior does not make a good person per se.
Nope.
So
Unless you're
Yeah.
upfront about like the chaotic person you actually are.
but you know, at least you have a topic to talk with him about once you get out of here.
Who said he's talking?
All right.
Hard
As
to
mentioned,
talk when your mouth and throat is like filled with blood.
Dems are fighting words.
Like
but
Rain's just gonna like give him some nightmares to think about, you know.
I think we can come up with a nice list of those things. But as mentioned, this was our last session of this year. This year, we're gonna take a little holiday break, gonna relax, gonna recharge batteries, and prepare for next year again. Which means that our next session will be on the 4th of January, 2022. Yes, next year is 2022. It's almost already 2022. But is there anything else that any of you have going on, mind sharing, that's happening in the rest of December? Anything up that you might want to throw out there?
My commissions for like January, February are open.
Cool.
You know, if you got cool characters that want me to draw, I'd be happy to, because I don't have any other bigger projects at the moment. That is like job related. Apart from that, I don't know, follow me on TikTok, I guess. I'm back to posting art there. And I'm particularly posting about a personal project I'm working on, which I'm very excited is going to be the 2022 project. So yeah, if you like cool heavy ink illustration, like I don't know, check it out if you feel like it.
Didn't you also recently launch a store? Wasn't there a thing?
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you. See, this is how much I care about like marketing it. I
Very
reopened
much.
my Etsy store. It doesn't have that many things in it, but like I figured there were some people asking about prints. Like I've printed some stuff like costume for particular clients in the past, people who contacted me like, "Hey, do you have a print of this?" And I've made it just for them. But I figured it would make sense to like put a couple of them on the store. So if you go, I'll put the link on the chat since we are talking about it.
Perfect.
But I use the same username on everywhere. So like if you were to look for my name, Cyril Snowings, and like Etsy, it should pop up. But
Perfect.
here it is.
Very cool indeed. Very nice prints there, cool shirts, and worth checking out.
Oh yeah, the shirts are in the other shop. But
All right. Sorry, I'm getting the shops mixed up here.
I don't make those.
No.
I do make my own
That's
prints, but I don't make the
perfect.
t-shirts.
No.
But
Correct. The prints. My apologies. Anything else from anyone else? Ida.
Two things actually. This Saturday I'm going to continue playing with Ladies of D&D with their in December. We're going to wrap up the playtest of a more noir horror game called 12 Occult Eye. I'm a human tormented by a demon manifest, but we got to work together on things, and the push and pull is really exciting. And it's going to be more one shots I think I'll be participating in, but the schedule is going to be at Ladies of D&D. So check me out there as
that
well.
sounds awesome.
I'm having a lot of fun. So many amazing, talented people, designers and players, and I'm enjoying myself there as well. And the second thing I wanted to bring up, I know it's been in the news, especially about the tornadoes that have been affected Kentucky in the United, especially Kentucky, but a lot of places in the United States. If you're able to, anyone who's watching now or in the future, you want to support efforts there. There are a lot of reputable charities and organizations helping people in need, but one I am personally particularly fond of is called World Central Kitchen. It is run by a chef called Jose Andres. And what's amazing about this charity and this chef's work is that they just kind of show up, bring local hospitality industries and anyone else assembled. They set up kitchens, trucks, and they just cook. No permission, no bureaucracy, no red tape. They just shut up, cook, and feed every single person that needs food that they encounter. They've been to Puerto Rico after the hurricane. They've been to the Middle East. They've been everywhere, but they're in Kentucky and in the states affected by the tornadoes. That's a personal favorite charity of mine. But anything you can do, and there's places all around the world. It's the season. No matter what is happening, if you have means to help out, make that a gift for yourself this year as well.
And I did quickly post a link
you.
to the organization in the chat if you want to check them out. So if you do want to see how you can help out there, surely check out World Central Kitchen there.
Amazing organization. I love everything they do.
Perfect. Caro, anything from your end? Or
No,
are you
not
just
at the
going to
moment.
settle into the holiday season?
I'm happy to go on holidays on Friday, so
Perfect.
Yay!
Yeah,
Totally on hand.
no, exactly. No, nothing exciting here from my end either. I had much fun playing with all of you tonight.
And
Thanks for
us
everyone who
with
dropped by
you.
in the chat and in the stream. Enjoy your holiday season, no matter what you celebrate, with who you celebrate. Make sure that you take some time to relax, to treat yourself to some nice things, and just enjoy in whatever way you like to enjoy in these time of years. And we hope to see you back in the new year
Yeah.
for
2
new
weeks.
adventures.
That's not too
And
long off.
2 weeks, not too long off. Gives me some time to prepare some stuff for you to encounter in these mountains. And enjoy the weeks. If you want to keep track of us, follow us on the socials. Follow Horde of Tales on Twitter. Follow us here on Twitch. Join our Discord. And we see you then in 2 weeks in 2022. Take care.
I miss you
Enjoy your
all.
evening.
Bye. I really miss you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.